73 years. And, you know, brain was perfect. Oh, it's still one. Something last year. Learned something.
Huh?
Get to replace it. Yeah.
All right, we are gonna go ahead and officially call this meeting to order at 6:01, and we will start off with roll call. Chris, do you have that for us?
Diane Crocker,
Here.
Spencer Irwin, Brent Caseman,
Here.
Mayor Christopher McMorrin,
Here.
Jessica Andrade, Teresa Nielsen,
Here.
Richard Salsa,
Present.
Kyle Cup,
Here.
Nicole Hasley,
Here.
Van Hutsaker,
Here.
Deanna Montiel, John Simonton, Mike Christosik,
Here.
Cody Valencia.
Present.
You got it.
Awesome, thank you. And it looks like we're gonna start off with a presentation of the 26-27 budget orientation.
Yes, we are. You want to listen?
I saw a lot of fun creatures.
It's changed a lot this year.
That makes it.
Because the slides on my page.
Um,
I'm just getting this to this here, and I know there's a button. Share, hide video panel, I think is that one.
Okay, are we ready? Then don't jump the page. We are the Budget Review Committee. Introductions, do we want to go around and do that, Nicole, or was the roll call enough?
We got a couple of numbers, there's probably, yeah.
If I can start, Nicole Hasley. This is my first full year, second term with the committee. And I'm also the executive director of the Philomath Chamber of Commerce.
Van Hunsaker. Been in the community 40 years or so.
And Brett Caseman, Philomath City Councilor.
That's very exciting. Sorry, Diane Crocker, Philomath City Councilor,
Sorry.
and I've been here for a while too.
Teresa Nielsen, also a city councilor.
Mike Christosik, I'm brand new to this, so treat me nice, would you?
Thanks for being here.
You're between two nice people.
Yeah,
The minutes are somewhere else.
I'm Christopher McMorrin. I'm the mayor of Philomath.
Well, afternoon, everyone. Cody Valencia. I've lived here in Philomath for the last 7 years, and I'm originally from Halsey, just down the valley.
Good to have you.
Really good to have you. I'm Mike Brzezinski, Finance Director. Been doing this for over 30 years, so another one to go through. Always the fun. So,
Chris Workman, city manager. I'm still learning from Mike.
Kyle Cup, Town Troublemaker, and this is my second year.
Rich Salzer, Philomath City Councilor.
okay. The agenda says we're going to do the presentation and the budget calendar review. We're going to kind of do those both simultaneously because we're going to jump right into the budget calendar review, if you notice. As you know, we usually we start about May or something, early May or something like that, or late April. This year we got pushed back because of utility rates. Took us a little bit longer to get those adopted. And once they were adopted, we could go through. I could start the budget. Prior to that, I couldn't do really much of anything. So it pushed us out 2 weeks. Normally, I like to have the budget approved by council by this first meeting in June. This year, we had to go out to the second meeting. It is what it is, it's just timing. So the first meeting that we're gonna have, first full-blown meeting, will be May 13th. And it's gonna start at 5:30. You'll get your agenda, or you'll get your packets the Friday before, so you got the whole weekend to review it. Sorry to fill your weekend, but it's a lot of fun reading. Find it. Right now, we still can't talk about it because we haven't noticed it or anything like that. So the first meeting, I mean, we could have done the election of the chairs tonight, but we didn't. didn't notice it, so we pulled it. Because we have a full committee. Once you have a full committee, you can do it at your first orientation, but we forgot to do that. So Chris will read through his budget message and we'll talk about that. We'll have a public hearing on the use of state revenues. Sharon, that's a normal, we always have to do that. We'll have a public hearing, and the council will have one, and we'll adopt it on June 22nd. Then we'll have the public input before we start the review. So remember the new guys, Mike and Cody, we go page by page, and the first meeting, we take questions and comments. We don't debate, we don't discuss it, but we go through the whole budget. You give us the questions, we come back with a whole bunch of answers for you in the second meeting. Second meeting is when we get into the meat of the whole thing. So that's the normal process. And then, we give the members public time. And we want the public to give their questions and comments. So that's what this is all about. Then the second, like I said, we'll do the answers to the first question of the first meeting and the budget deliberations. That'll take us we would go to 9 o'clock. Or sometimes we're done earlier, but don't count on it. It is, but it just happens. We get problems. Then the third meeting is pretty much you approve the budget to the council for their. So we probably will have to answer more questions. Second meeting always brings up more questions. So anyway, you will approve the budget, you'll approve the tax levies for both the city and the URA. The URA is the Urban Renewal Agency. You will do, Mike and Cody, we do two things. We'll do the urban renewal first, and then we do the city council or the city budget next. So that's how we structured this. So then after that, with June 22nd, council gets to do their job and adopt it. We have a public hearing then, and then we will have separate hearings for both the city and the URA, like I just mentioned, and then we impose and categorize the time. And then we're done. So we start the fund. We can start on July 1st with a new budget. On June 30th, the 25-26 budget goes away. So after we'll talk about any fund balances that happens on June 30th. So anyway.
Any questions on timing, calendar, any of the terms that Mike threw out?
Do people understand the urban versus city thing? Should we talk about that?
Probably not. You want to?
Sure, I can try and then. I get for everyone, but also for the new folks. The Philomath Urban Renewal Agency is technically a legally separate public entity from the city of Philomath that levies taxes and then does urban renewal projects like streetscapes and other sort of downtown revitalization projects. The legal distinction of it being separate is kind of purely on paper. The governing body of the Urban Renewal Agency are the members of the Philomath City Council, and the executive director of the Urban Renewal Agency is also the city manager. So they function as very similar bodies, but they are technically separate. That's why there's two budgets. So just know you'll see both of those budgets come up, and the Urban Renewal Agency money can only be spent on very specific things related to sort of urban revitalization, whereas the city budget, you'll see spent on a whole lot of other things. So,
Right.
But this committee will kind of jointly examine both of those budgets, and both of them ultimately achieve is making Philomath a nice place to live. So, yeah.
And one thing more to the urban renewal, we're approaching sunset. Sunset means we've run out of our authority to spend. We've had 14.7 or 13.8?
14.7.
We had $14.7 million that we could spend. And so we've got roughly about 700, maybe less, to spend. And once we hit that, we have to close it down, and all we do is pay off the debt. That's what you'll see, the debt related to that in their budget. So that'll be the next step that we're approaching it. In all my years, I've never seen one. So this will be my first. So, and the county's kind of watching and saying, hey, keep an eye on this. And I've also got a consultant watching it for us too. Because we can't overspend it. If we do, I don't know what happens.
Yeah.
Getting back to the presentation, Budget Review Committee, who is it, who's on it? We've got 7 council members, so we have 7 city members, former citizens, under the council. They're on for 3 years and they're staggered, so every year we have 1/3 of you guys going off, or you can stay on and get renewed. So that's one thing, that you can stay here until you want. Van, how long you been doing this?
Well, I don't know.
I think Teresa and everyone started.
Same here, yeah. It's the good way.
So
So,
be careful, those of you who are here.
Busy.
If I can just say on that note, like, this committee, more than any other committee the city has, will give you a complete overview of the things the city does, because anything the city does that spends money or takes in money, we will talk about in this committee. So this is a really great way to just learn more about the community and the city. So thanks for joining us for that.
right,
It's very condensed.
Yes.
it happens really quick, but you get a really
Yeah.
quick education. Nicole, you've been doing it for 2 years now?
Well, this will be my second term, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, she's learned a lot in 2 years, and so is Kyle. Kyle's the second year too. Okay, anyway, who runs the meeting? That's gonna be Miss Nicole, but we have to elect a new chair and a vice chair every meeting, or the very first meeting. So the chair will oversee the meetings, run the meetings. I'll be running kind of the details. But first meeting, like I said, we're gonna go page by page and get questions. Now, the fun about this, the city lay members have the same degree of authority and responsibility as the committee. So, we'll talk more about the fine details later, but you have the same authority and same responsibility. Okay, what do y'all do? All right, as I said, you've received the budget message, do that. I'll give you the budget document, he'll do the budget message. You all will hear and consider public comment. And then, like I said, we'll review the budget, the first meeting, and discuss it the second meeting. Their questions may lead to revisions, so we'll talk about those in the second meeting. Then you'll approve the budget the last meeting on June 10th, or God, I don't know what date it is, but the last meeting. You'll approve the property taxes too. Okay, and what do you do not do? No, what you're basically doing, you're doing a high-level review. You don't get into the fine detail of the personnel, employee contract, salary. Council's already done that. We did that back in January and February. You don't get into the fine details, but you can ask questions about them. Feel free to them, but we just don't get too deep into them. And then you might ask me to make dollar adjustments to appropriations. That's why I'm saying we'll play what if. The first meeting, you ask a bunch of questions. If it turns into a what if, then I'll come back with an answer. So will the increase or decrease? Just remember, if you increase something, we've got to decrease and vice versa. So keep that in mind when you're looking at stuff later.
Just a little bit of budget books. So when you get your budget book, especially on the general fund, which is the majority of the money that you'll be looking at that the city receives is general fund, and we're talking about that later. Within the general fund, there's different departments, and within each department, they're gonna have line items. So within the general fund, the first one you'll see is like the administration or the city manager department, or the administration department. And under there's line items, all the stuff that I spend money on every single year, right? From personnel to materials and services, it's all there. So as a member of the Budget Review Committee, your role is to kind of look at that department budget, say, does this make sense? What was it last year? What's needed? Does it make sense for this year? But you're not gonna go into the line item and be, well, last year you spent $200 less in travel and you bumped it up 200. I want you to decrease your travel back down $200, right? So that's not the level you're down at, right? When you're approving the budget as a Budget Review Committee, it gets approved really by department, right? And so if, say, the administration budget is higher than you think it should be, you could make a recommendation to lower the budget of the administration department and that would be okay, but you're not gonna do it per line item, per employee, per, that level. So when we talk about line item versus kind of the fund or the department, that's the distinction. And when you get the book, it'll be a little clear, and as we go throughout today's orientation, you'll see it a little bit more clearly there as well, but I think just high level, hopefully that summary helps a little bit more too.
Can I just add to that, though, even like, that doesn't preclude you from asking questions about the line item, doesn't it? And in fact, you should, because there are times where like, there might be a typo in there and we accidentally said we were gonna spend $5,000 on Staples and we're not, that meant to be 500, so that's fine. Like, if you see something, you're like, hey, this doesn't make sense, please ask about it. Even if we're not gonna start messing with it and moving things around, we can still correct things and tweak things, but yeah.
Yeah, Christopher's right. I've seen so many of those numbers, I can make a mistake. And I've done it, so
Yeah.
I'm not worried about if you find something that'll work.
And that's a big part of this committee, is just kind of being proofreaders too and making sure this.
All right, then there's public comment. So we're gonna provide that at each meeting. We'll have, hopefully, have some public here to talk about the budget. We'll give them time to address y'all, and they'll give us their comments and their questions. If you have questions of them, to get clarification, you're just welcome to do that. We would like to have it in writing, just because we have a better records, and that way we don't mess something up. Okay, so any questions on that particular aspect?
I just want to clarify, the public comments are strictly about the budget.
Correct.
It can't be about the water bill or something like that. It's
Right.
just this, okay.
Yeah, I mean, public comments about public comment, there's typically a little spiel where we like encourage you to keep your comments pertaining to the budget. But then we say go and we give them 3 to 5 minutes depending, and then you kind of just sit and listen. And if they want to talk about the wildflowers or whatever, you kind of let them, right? You give them 3 to 5 minutes, and most people do pretty good on staying on task. If there's heated items or heated topics, and sometimes people will want to go over, and the chair gets to say, sorry, your time, a lot of time's up. Please let other people have a chance to speak. And so, again, we'll talk here in a little bit. There's definitely some things that we're encouraging the public to come and give us some feedback on. And so you will, more likely this year than in previous years, have some public comment. And you can watch a couple of city council members, see how the council engages, but really public comment is to listen, right? 2 ears, 1 mouth. So we listen during public comment, and then after public comment's over, then we deliberate amongst yourselves about, well, we heard this comment, what do we all think? And then you talk amongst yourselves. But we really try not to engage back and forth with the individual while they're providing their public comment. If they've got questions, they say, hey, I appreciate your questions. We've written them down. We'll talk about those later. But the public comment time is not debate, right?
Yeah.
It's not debating time.
And just responding a little bit to Diane's comment and my earlier comment of, although people's comments are supposed to be related to the budget, you can kind of reasonably make an argument that anything the city does is related to the budget. So we try not to be super, like maybe they're not talking about a specific line item, but maybe they're talking about how they love the police or something. Well, the police have a budget, or maybe they're talking about how they hate the police. Well, that's still, so we try to be reasonable with that, but yeah.
Okay. Meeting rules, the Budget Review Committee meeting rules. When you have a question, please get the chair's attention before you start speaking. That way, if anybody is doing the Zoom feature, use your raise the hand feature. We keep an eye on that. Be respectful of one another's opinion. There's going to be 14 of us, plus us staff. Everybody has a different opinion. Just agree to disagree. So we will move on, and then be considerate of one another's time. Voice your opinion, and then don't try and drag it out. Discuss it and try to win others' points. Just let's talk through it. When a decision has been made, move on and support the decision. There's a lot to discuss in this budget, so if it's a majority, and if we got a majority rule on it, let's move on so we don't dwell on it. Limit your discussions and communications about the budget the budget meetings, this is a public process. So outside of this, you gotta just be careful how you talk, ears or not. God, this one's a tough one, Chris. How can you say how to be careful with this one? If you, everybody gets together, a couple of y'all get together, be careful how you talk outside.
Yeah, I just want to avoid even the perception that you're having discussions you shouldn't be having, right? If the members of the public come up to you and want to talk to you about the budget, invite them to come to the meetings, right? Just invite them to come and they can sit, they can listen, provide comment, or invite them to join the budget committee next year, right? But be a little careful, obviously, in your homes, talking with friends one-on-one, you can have general conversations about it, but you don't want to come back to this meeting and have your fellow budget review committee members feel like, man, it sounds like they got this all figured out already, or like these three over here in the corner, it's like they've already talked about this, they already know how this is gonna go. And so if it becomes obvious or evident that there's been meetings that have taken place and discussions taking place outside of this body, it's just gonna make everybody feel uncomfortable, right? And it's gonna raise questions about, public meeting rules and public meeting laws, and we just want to avoid any perception there. So the best advice I can give you is just kind of, again, invite people to come to these meetings, have the conversations here, and just while we're from like now through the end of the budget season, just try to avoid topics and conversations about the budget, generally speaking, and just tell people, I'm on the budget committee. I'm not really going to talk about outside of the meeting, but if you guys want to come to the meeting, then we can talk about it there, right? It's the kind of best practice. Legally, if you're not a quorum, you're not a quorum, so quorum is, it would be 8 of you, right? So if there's 8 of you sitting at a table, when I go to La Raquita next week, you're gonna be in trouble. But anything less than that, legally, you're not a quorum, so it's not technically a public meeting, but you still just want to avoid the appearance, right? If 7 of you are sitting at the table on Raquita and the public walks in, it's like, why are those guys talking about? Oh, they're just members of the budget committee, but they're not talking about the budget, right? It just looks bad. So just avoid the appearance of anything that might look erroneous or suspicious.
I think a good, like the philosophy behind the public meetings laws is just that the public has the right not only to see the decisions being made, but to see how and why we arrived at those decisions. So just ask yourself that question, like, is this conversation I'm having going to help me arrive at the decision? And am I doing it outside of a public meeting? If so, probably tap the brakes and just have it in a public meeting. And that's not, it's helpful for the rest of your committee members to know what you're thinking and why, but it's also the legal requirements so our residents know why we're deciding the things we are with the budget. So.
Okay, next slide is, how's the budget developed? Like I've alluded to before, a lot of this has already happened. Council and city staff have gone through the strategic plan and come up with 10 or 11.
We're 10 this year.
10 items that will be in the budget one fashion or another. The strategic plan, they adopted it last meeting, I believe. Is that true, in the last meeting? Okay. And then part of it, we do the capital improvement plan. We still need to get that in front of the finance committee. But it's been set up. It's in the budget. Like I alluded to earlier, the council approves the utility rates and other fees. We've done that already. Now, once I get all this information from the council, I can start the budget. It takes me about 3 or 4 weeks to put everything together. So right now, I'm in the last phase of it and have to have you guys out next Friday. Sorry, or is it next Friday. So it's a long process. It's a lot of paper. But it's pretty, we've streamlined it the last couple of years, so a little bit easier to read through. The strategic plan, Chris, I'm gonna let you, that's your baby. Let's do that one.
Well, it's city council's baby. I should let the mayor and council take it on.
Take off.
We've actually updated these and didn't update the slides. So we actually have 4 kind of primary themes that we focus on now. The strong infrastructure kind of got down into having a safe community, right? Like if you don't have safe drinking water, if the sewer pipes aren't working right, that doesn't make for a very safe community. So we kind of expanded the definition of safe community to mean more than just public safety, police presence, to include some of that infrastructure stuff. Other infrastructure projects went into creating great neighborhoods like parks and whatnot, or even economy. So the strong infrastructure kind of went away. Some of the others got added too, but we update the strategic plan every year. City council, we've been doing a retreat like in December, January, and going through goals, big picture, what are we trying to do? And then narrowing it down to, you know, what are the goals we want to do? What are the objectives we're trying to accomplish? And then once the council kind of decides on those top 10 objectives for the year, then staff goes back to, okay, how are we going to meet these objectives the council has? And so the staff help put together action items for that year or future years, and we come back to the council and they decide on those action items that we're going to carry out. So those are the things that you'll see in the budget. We'll make sure that we point those out. This year, some of them have dollar figures, some of them don't. They're just things that we need to do that don't necessarily cost money. The ones that do cost money, we'll make sure we point those out to you where they're located. And yeah, that really governs, you know, what we're trying to do. Again, we have our 10 for this year, but we recognize it's a 5-year plan. So there's objectives and action items for future years. And if we do really, really good, we can get the stuff done for this year. We might be able to take on some additional things. And if not, we stay really busy. And then next year we'll have kind of other priorities that we focus on. But we do look at it long, 5-year strategic plan for the city and things we're working on. So anybody on the council you've been involved, want to add to that?
Good summary. There's no question.
And from the strategic plan, we take that and put that into the capital improvement project. Any of those items, the 10 items that show up in there. But we have a schedule that we put together every year, and you'll see the one fund, it's called the Land Building and Equipment. We call it LBE, so that's, you'll hear an acronym like that, that's our land building. That's where all of our capital improvement projects are going. And one of these days I want to split that out, but we have our vehicles in there. I want to move the vehicles out to their own fund. Don't want to add funds, but you know, it makes life a little bit easier putting all of our equipment in one fund and then our projects in another fund. Just makes my life easier. So that's something you might see in the next couple of years. So that's our capital improvement plan. Chris, you want to add anything to it?
It really is, as you'll see, this print's a little bit hard to read in there, but you'll see this one specifically is all the equipment that we look to buy. This keeps us from going into debt where we don't need to, right? We don't need to borrow money to buy a tractor, borrow money to buy a police vehicle. We try to put money aside every year so that when that, you know, the dump truck that we do have, when it gets to be 15 years old or 20 years old, needs to be replaced, we've been saving up money for 15 or 20 years so we can go in and pay for a new dump truck, sell off the old one. So this is our stay out of debt plan. It works well. But also when money starts getting tight on the other side and we're not, you know, if our expenses start going up and our revenues aren't keeping up, this is the first place that we start making cuts, right? You can't always save towards the future if you can't make your bills to pay off today. So in this year's budget especially, we'll look at that. We'll look at what happens when it starts getting really tight and we don't have as much money to put forward towards those future expenses as we'd like to. And so we've put some solutions in, we've talked to the council, and again, we'll talk on that a little bit more as we move forward, but we've had to make some changes this year to help us continue to contribute for future years and also help with our kind of ending fund balance, and we'll get into that a little more. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
We're actually here for the city council meeting, which we understand starts after the budget meeting.
Immediately after, yeah, you're free to be here, this open meeting, and then you won't be late.
Wonderful. Can I just add one thing? First of all, you'll see in the budget, not only is it nice to save up for a purchase, but when we save money, that goes into a pool with all the other local governments in Oregon, an investment pool. So we actually get investment income from the money that we're saving for these future purchases. So instead of paying
It's not
interest.
money in a mattress.
Right, yeah, so instead of paying interest on a loan, we're actually getting interest on our savings, so that it's a good thing to do.
That's a smart plan.
Who thought of that? Chris?
That's been around a lot longer than I think that might have started, and it started back when you were mayor or before that even.
Yeah. Probably, we put a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And then finally, the last thing that we have is the utility rates and the other fees. Now, last year, we put into the budget, monies for a utility rate study. My latest, we took a little bit of time to get the council through all the nuances of that rate study. They did a rate study for the sewer, the water, storm drain. Street fees was not part of it, but we still, that's part of our fees, we have to include it. So these are set up within the budget, and might give you all a copy of the rate study just so you can see it. That might be a good thing for you all to review, so you know what we went through, what the council went through. Other fees that we have in there, we have the storm drain fee, and any administrative fees that we charge out. Those are also considered by the council for approval. One thing new this year, and Chris has kind of talked briefly about it indirectly, we've included a $14 per month utility, or it's a city service fee. This is going to fund the police, and it's going to help us with our ending fund balance. The last couple of years, I really can't talk too heavy into it, but we built a general fund fee before, and it built up our fund fee, our beginning fund balance. And it went like this. Well, we stopped it and it's gone like this. So we're kind of getting to the point where we have to think about how we're going to fund stuff later. So we've put a $14 per month utility fee in there. It's called city service. That's part of your review. So I'll point that out when we get over the revenues. Go ahead.
And we're inviting the public to use this public review process of the budget to give us input on that city services fee. So that's why I said this year, unlike other years, like any comments and nobody shows up, I anticipate there'll be some people that have comments and concerns and questions about a new $14 per month fee on their utility bill. And so we will likely hear from folks that are in favor or opposed to that. And we'll listen to them, and then we'll look at the budget and we'll say, okay, we have this fee, what do we do if we don't have the fee? Or what if we do if we lessen the fee? What's gonna come out of the budget, right? So, again, with the council's direction, staff said, hey, can we build the budget with the fee so we can see what it's gonna look like? We'll use the public hearing process during the budget approval to hear from everybody. And then we'll leave it in the hands of the budget review committee to decide to leave the budget as is or to make adjustments as needed. So again, I anticipate, because the city will be promoting and encouraging people to come to the budget committee meeting next 2 weeks to provide us feedback on the budget overall, but also on the proposed fee. So if you've been on budget committee in years before and it's been really quiet, I anticipate we'll have more people here in 2 weeks than what we've had in the past. Anytime you propose a new fee, you're gonna have people coming out that are concerned and wanna understand why the fee's needed, how we got to that number, and we'll be able to review that with you all here in a couple of weeks. So,
And can I add on to that? This fee is a little different than like the utility rates and everything because those utility rates have already been adopted by the council, whereas this hasn't been. The council just said that we could kind of see what it looks like in the budget, but the council has not approved that fee yet. So this process will have more of an impact on the outcome of that fee, whereas like this process won't have a real impact on actual utility rates, because those were approved by the council after a whole separate public process. So just to say, even though it's all going on the utility bill, that particular fee is a little more relevant to our discussions than some of the other ones. But yeah.
and we will focus on it. We won't talk a ton about it tonight. We want to make sure that the public's been invited to be here for that discussion. So when we meet in 2 weeks, we'll have a whole portion of the conversation about the city services fee, what it's going towards, why it's needed. And we'll talk through that so that you've got information. We're building up a page on the website that we can point people to that will have information about it. There'll be some social media posts about it. So very quickly, hopefully all of you in the room will become the experts that people can ask questions to. And staff's role is to kind of help get you up to that spot. So we'll be providing that information over the next couple of weeks for you. And then again, in 2 weeks, we'll present and talk through it as well. If you're super, super curious, because I've picked at a scab that you're interested in, you can go back, I think it was the February city council meeting is when I presented to the city council on a city services fee and rolling it into the budget this year and seeing what it looks like. So you can read my memo and it's got a little bit of background information to it. But otherwise, we'll explain things in a couple weeks.
Okay. Okay. All right, now we're gonna get into how the budget, is ordered. Buckets. We've got buckets. We've got the general fund. That's the big one. That's the one we're really gonna spend a lot of time talking about. No, there's just no way to explain it. That is it. The rest of the funds after that are pretty much special revenue funds. That's the street and the land building and the system development fund. Water and sewer and storm are considered proprietary. They are business type activities. So they're in the mode to make money. They're a business type. So I look at it this way. Chris and Christopher look at it and the council look at it quite differently than what I do. I mean, sorry guys, I'm a nerd about this, and that's how I look at it. These guys look at it, they're buckets, and they are buckets. We can spend out of the general fund, street fund. We can only spend it on streets. Water fund, water only. Sewer fund only. I mean, that's the sewer lines. Land building and equipment, we can split that out. We can do it. We've got the vehicles in there, we've got our equipment in there, we've got our capital projects. But that money usually comes from general fund, street, water, or sewer. I mean, that's how those are funded. So those are specific dollars that's how they're spent. System development fund, that's our SDCs, you'll hear that called SDCs, so that's the system development charges that we have. Those come from developers when they start developing houses and the apartment complexes in you take some pretty big SDCs. So that particular stuff. We've got improvements and reimbursement. We'll talk to you about that if you have questions when we get there. Right now, we're just going to give you an overview of how these things. Like I said, they're separate. You can't move money to like water fund to the general fund to pay for something like police patrol can't do it. But when I think about it, wait a minute, there is a way you can do that, but we won't go there. Josephine County was good at that one.
Generally speaking.
Huh?
Yeah, it's not uncommon for us to hear the complaint like, oh, you got all this money for parks, but you can't fix the streets, right? Well, yeah, because we have a fee for parks and we collect money to put into parks. We have a different fee for streets and the fee for the streets is too low. So you're exactly right. We have all the money for parks we want and we can't fix the streets. 100% correct. Sometimes, and that's just an example. In Philomath, we have great streets and great parks. But as an example, you will sometimes hear people complain that about the cities, right? Oh, you got money for this, not for that. Well, it's because there's this bucket issue, right? Where you have different pots of money for different things. And by state law, we can only spend money we collect from water customers on water. We can't take water from customers, money from water customers and spend it to make the streets better. Unless we're doing a water project on the street, then we gotta redo the street over on top of it, right? That's a water project. So anyway, there are different buckets.
Right.
And I just want to clarify, when Mike talks about that those are sort of run like a business, that's true. So anyone you know who thinks the government should run more like a business, boy, are they in luck. But I also want to clarify, that doesn't mean they're not designed to make a ton of profit. That's not the goal. They are designed to meet the expenses. So we set our water and sewer and storm rates directly based on how much it's costing us to provide those services. In the way that a business would, but we're not, it's not like, the shareholders get a bonus at the end of the year if the water fund has extra money because you all are the shareholders. And the only thing that money can be used for is future water projects and water personnel. So I just want to clarify that.
That's perfect, yeah, that's perfect. Now, the next page is the general fund. Like we're saying, that money can go out, you can go spend that in the council and the budget committee. I mean, we've got it laid out there. We can move some of the money, we've got transfers going out. Those are the items, those are the ones going probably to the LBU, the land building and equipment. Or it could be going to, the STCs to provide something. We also have a transfer out of there that goes to the street fund, but it's the revenue that's coming in from their franchise fees. So, I mean, the money can go out to them, but we can't take money from, water, sewer, or storm to provide services. They have to be provided directly for those functions. Any questions on this? I mean, it's just a lot of numbers. It's got to be balanced. You'll see that when you get the book in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Is this for the upcoming budget or is this your current?
That's just an example.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, that's old stuff. I mean, those numbers are, the police budget is almost 2.5 right now. So, yeah, these are some old numbers. So, good question. Next page. And then we got the other funds, same layout. You'll see a lot of big contingencies on them, and you'll see debt services for the street and the water. In the other debt service we have will be in the urban renewal. We took out loans a couple years back to fund the street project, the streetscape project. So that money's pretty much gone. Everything's done is debt service now. So that's the other funds. The numbers are old. I mean, so don't hold me to anything. I think this one's the water fund. Yeah. Then let's go to the final thoughts. Things to ponder before our May 13th meeting. Some things to think about. Our revenues are stable right now. We don't get very many federal dollars. Federal dollars that we are getting is for the water treatment plant. We got $8.6 million left for that project. We're going to be talking about that project after this meeting. Property taxes is the biggest revenue source that we have in the general fund. But one bad thing about it, Measure 5 and 50, if you ever want an education on that, there's some really good books. Really put a lot of handcuffs on us. We can't raise the rates any more than 3% unless there's construction. Then, as you know, our expenditures are increasing, and some of them are out of control, or out of our control. I mean, the PERS is, it went up this year. You're going to see an increase in our PERS. Every 2 years, we get a new increase, so you'll see that through the budget. Inflation has been, it's affecting y'all out there. It's affecting the city too. Our cost for our water treatment plant's gone up in the last couple of years, so has all of our projects, and so have all of our costs. Our ending fund for the general fund has been decreasing for the last 3 years, $300,000. That's kind of why we have the $14 service fee, but we'll talk more about that when we get to the meeting. Now, there is a video. Do you have access to that video?
I think we can get to it, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see. 550, we can have just 3 houses side by side. Each one of them pay different taxes based on their assessed value and market value.
Can I just really quick
Sure, go
before,
ahead.
just add something on because I think it's something that the general public doesn't fully get about property taxes, is most people pay a little more in property taxes every year than the year before, because of what we're about to see in this video with property values increasing. But I think it's important for people to understand that, as Mike said, can't go up more than 3% per year in almost all instances, which puts local governments in a structural deficit, because I think we can all agree expenses for almost everyone have gone up more than 3% per year over the last several years. And that includes expenses for the city. So there's just this mismatch where our revenues don't meet the costs because the costs have this constitutional limitation saying they can't go up more than 3% per year. Whereas obviously the revenues have that, whereas the costs don't. So, sometimes I hear things about like, folks on fixed incomes, and I totally hear that. I just think people should also understand the city is sort of on a fixed income too, sometimes even more so, because even with things like fixed incomes, there are cost of living adjustments that are calculated based on inflation, whereas property tax increases are not calculated based on inflation. They are just 3% per year in almost all cases. So I just think that's an important piece for people to know.
Good, I like that,
Okay, let me see if I can get the video to work.
yeah.
Nope, backwards. Back.
Got it.
Might just do it. Worried about volume, so
Yeah, hang on, yeah.
That's not bad.
Deschutes County, those of us that live here know it's a special place. And many that visit want to move here. But if you own property in Deschutes County, you also know what crazy times it's been in the last few years regarding property values, which makes for real challenges at the assessor's office. Real market value, assessed value, maximum assessed value. You say tomato, we say tomato, but it comes out confusing all the same. I'm Scott Langton, your county assessor, and I'd like to prepare you for a crazy combination of Major 50 and a recent real estate market value fluctuations. Please don't shoot the messenger, but some of you might be in for a bit of a surprise when you receive your property tax bill this fall. Now we've come up with a method for you to review your tax situation in a graphic way. To explain this, we've enlisted the aid of the Property Tax Fairy to tell you a story. The story of Measure 50 and the three tax laws.
What are you looking at? You've never seen Property Tax Fairy before. Well, get comfortable. Time. Speaking of time, that's what this story is all about. Let's fire up the property tax time machine and go back to 1997. Then, Oregon voters passed Measure 50, which was designed to limit property taxes. Measure 50 created what's called the maximum assessed value, which was the real market value of your property in 1995, less 10%. Here's an example. In 1997, the real market value of this property was $140,000. The maximum assessed value of this house was set at $126,000. Over the next 10 years or so, the real market value of this property steadily increased, but Measure 50 ensured that the maximum assessed value only increased by 3% on this home. So the owners of this property saw only minor increases in their tax bill, while they enjoyed a major increase in the real market value of the property. Then the real estate bubble burst, and the property values began to fall. Because the maximum assessed value was so far below the real market value on this property, the maximum assessed value still increased 3% annually by law. And that's why property taxes still kept going up, despite the market value going down. That's pretty straightforward, right? This homeowner enjoyed the benefit of lower taxes despite fluctuating property values. A lot of new construction has occurred in Deschutes County since then. When a house is first built, it receives its initial real market value, and also with that, its maximum assessed value. The assessed value is the lower of these and becomes the baseline for calculating your property taxes. Now here's where it gets a little tricky and becomes a job for the Property Tax Fairy. Because of the crazy real estate market we've been having the last few years and the ongoing effects of Measure 50, we may see some wildly different changes in the maximum assessed value of some Deschutes County properties, even if the properties are very similar to each other. We've told you about Measure 50. Now let's illustrate the current situation. Here we have a typical subdivision in Bend. It was started in 2006, and the developer built several homes before the market started changing. As the housing market went down, it took several years to complete more homes in the subdivision. This home was completed and therefore assessed for tax purposes in 2006. At that time, the property's real market value was $280,000. Its maximum assessed value was about $120,000. The home right next to it was built in 2009. Its real market value was determined to be $200,000, and its maximum assessed value $166,000. Then, in 2012, this third house was finished. Its real market value was $190,000, and its maximum assessed value was $181,000. 3 homes, similar sizes, same location, but 3 different property tax bills. Property 1, built and assessed before the peak of the housing market, has seen a big drop in real market value. Property 2, built and assessed in 2009, has seen a little less of a drop in real market value. Property 3, built as the market bottomed out, has a completely different scenario. 3 properties, similar in size, design, and location, but their tax bills will be very different. Here's where Measure 50 has worked. Property 1, whose value dropped the most, saw only the normal 3% increase in its property taxes as prescribed by Measure 50. Property 2, whose value also dropped pretty significantly, now has a real market value less than their maximum assessed value. Remember, Measure 50 says the assessed value will be the lower of the real market value and the maximum assessed value. Because of that, its assessed value became the same value as the real market value, and Property 2 actually saw a 9% decrease in its property taxes last year. Again, with Property 3, this is its first year of valuation, so there's nothing to compare it to yet.
But here's the kicker. The real estate market appears to be rebounding. And as real market values rise, the assessed value will continue to be the lower of the real market value or the maximum assessed value.
However, if the market increases by more than 3% in 1 year, and the assessed value and real market value are the same, the assessed value can increase by any percentage until it reaches the maximum assessed value. Back to our 3 properties again. And you can see Property 1 is the most stable and will see the anticipated 3% increase. Property 3, in its second year, will also see a 3% increase. But Property 2 is going to be surprised to see a tax increase of 14%. That's because its assessed value was pegged to its real market value. And with an increase in value of 20%, it may come as a shock, but it's because of Measure 50, the law Oregon voters passed in 1997.
Oh dear, this can still be kind of confusing, can it? Which scenario is your property going to be in? Up, down, sideways? Well, here's where you can find out for sure.
Go to the Deschutes County Assessor's website. It's deschutes.org/rapid. There you can look up your own property and use the website to view your own cool graph. You'll see your real market value.
You can find your property on Deschutes County.
Benton County Assessors.
Go there, they've got the layout.
You look it up by address?
And you can.
What's that?
Yeah.
To look it up for Benton County, it's just by address, special
Name,
code.
tax lot number. Trying to think, I was looking at it today for some other stuff. So there's like 5 parameters that you, and it works out pretty good. So they have the same data. So, all right, last thing that we're going to talk about is the process of how the budget's going to be presented. May 13th we meet, and like I said, we'll go page by page. And you've got questions or comments, we write those down, and we're not going to really debate or discuss anything. We're just going to take questions. Makes us quite a bit of time to go through those pages. So be prepared to do that. Second meeting, we're going to go over those. The staff will go over those, and if there's any what ifs, we'll give you the new information. And then you'll start voting on these items, majority vote rules. Then once they're approved, they'll be in this, I'll go back to the budget and correct the budget or update or whatever. And on June 10th, I will present to you all a budget for approval, and then the taxes the same night, or approve them, I should say, the council for adoption. Any questions on that process?
We didn't talk necessarily about scrivener's errors. If you see misspelled words, we're missing a decimal point, you know, anything like that, just, you can email those ahead of time or bring them with you in the meeting, but you can email them ahead of time to Mike or to myself. The quickest way to do it, because then we don't have to spend time with 14 people, 60 people around looking at punctuation and misspellings. We try to eliminate as much of that as we can, but inevitably with a, you know, large document as this, there's gonna be little tweaks. So if you see that, get it to Mike ahead of time. We don't have to take time. If you don't ahead of time, then in the meeting, just say, hey, just note on line 14, misspelling, or that number doesn't match the number on the previous page, or whatever it might be. Shouldn't be too much of that. I'll tell Mike a little bit, when he first came over, there was some of that because we were using the previous finance director stuff, plus stuff from where Mike had worked previously, and so some of our budget documents have like Newport on it still. It's like not Newport. So, but I think we're through most of that transition now, and I think everything is flown with branded. So we shouldn't have that quite as much. But for a couple of years there, it was like not Newport, not Newport. But anyway, scrivener's errors are okay. We don't have to vote on those. You just make note, do it. If the things where we're going to take a vote on is, again, if you want to change one of the department numbers, you know, anything like that, on those, after some brief discussion, you put a motion on the table. If there's a second, then we can have discussion about it and then call for a vote, right? So any of those more formal changes are gonna handle just through kind of basic Robert's rules. And don't feel intimidated if you're not sure of the right wording. You can always just look to us, say, well, this is what I'd like to do, and we'll kind of help script you the words, and then you can say the words, and then we'll move forward. So don't be intimidated because you're not sure the correct procedure. If you have a comment, everybody, again, is equal sitting here at the table, so feel free to speak up. Okay.
And with that, any other additional questions for tonight? Chris says, if you got any questions, you think about it while we're gone, go ahead and email it to us. You'll get your budget binders on May 8th, and I want to say thank you for putting your time in with us. It's going to go fast. We're going to be done really quick before you know it. So like I said, any questions?
I know the property tax stuff was a lot. Any questions on any of that?
Yeah, and it says 2013. It's still the same stuff.
And
we've been dealing with it since '99.
And just for the record, for y'all and anyone watching, if that was confusing and you hated that, good. We hate it too. I just because I feel like some people think that the city has complete control over all of that mess, and we have no control over all that mess. That's all in the state constitution that the voters passed. So I just, just for the record, that it makes your life difficult and it makes our life difficult.
It's not only the city that deals, every tax district has the same limitations. And so, and we won't even get into compression when you've got multiple agencies that are all do too much, and there's a maximum amount that you can be taxed on your property tax as well. So if you hit that number, then everybody gets only a portion of what they were supposed to collect, right? And it gets compressed down, and so fire district sees that, school district sees it, city sees it. Every taxing district is going to see that, and every taxing district is limited as well. And so it is tough. I mean, when your expenses, due to inflation, due to personnel expenses, PERS, health insurance costs, whatever that trigger is that makes your costs go up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8%, we're always looking back saying, how are we going to pay for that when our property taxes are only going up 3% and our franchise fees are going down and our shared revenues from the state are going down. So when everything's going down and property taxes are going up 3% and expenses are going up more than that, it gets a little tricky. And so again, we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks, but the city's not alone there. There's a lot of cities are grappling with this and have been grappling with this for a number of years on here. And there's more and more discussions at the state level on like, is Oregon's tax system broken? Do we need to be looking at different ways to be funding municipalities and schools and all that? Because the current property tax structure is creating challenges, has created challenges. So we're not alone. It's a mess, but we're not alone.
Yeah, and we are very open to, like, we want to make sure that we are being as efficient as possible with the money that we get, and that's part of what we're doing here today. I always tell people in town, like, if you think the city has a lot of waste and is misspending money, I'm happy to sit down with anyone and go page by page through the budget, which is what we're all gonna do. So we welcome any feedback on any of that, so, yeah.
So we're, number D, next meeting is May 13th at 5:30, so be here, and, because we take right off. First thing we will do is URA, and then we'll jump into the city at 5:40. And then Nicole, I'm gonna let you take E.
Anyone have any final thoughts? All right, we officially adjourn at 7:01.
Wow.
Thank you.